Hey guys, so the song you can hear playing accompanying me now is called The Kardashians, one of my own songs. It's kind of a fun, sort of poking fun at the Kardashian family. But the music for it, I wanted to kind of explain a bit about how that came about. And I was just playing around with some chords, some sort of moody, bluesy, atmospheric chords, and I was playing with some amps on GarageBand as well, and I stumbled across this amp setting that sounded really reverby and atmospheric, and I thought, oh, that reminds me of something. I thought, what is that? And I thought, that's it, it's How Soon Is Now, it reminded me of, by the Smiths. And I also wanted to put the sort of a gentle guitar riff in the background. So I came up with a very simple one, as you can hear on the song, the ding, 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 that kind of thing, which again, not deliberately, but also sounds a little bit like the descending guitar riff on How Soon Is Now. So I sort of unwittingly stumbled upon the sort of formula, if you like. I mean, there are no formulas in music, but if you want to call it that, let's call it that for now. That's sort of the formula for How Soon Is Now, the Smiths track. And this has got me thinking generally, you know, how relevant are the Smiths as a band at the moment? Obviously, you know, back in the 80s was their heyday, and when they had all their hits and that. But you know, here we are in the 20s, the 2020s. Nearly 40 years later, are they still relevant in any way? And for me, I mean, obviously for me, they have been relevant because, you know, I've deliberately chosen some amp settings and riffs that sound quite like one of their songs. So they're influential for me, but in general, are they? And then you think, well, there's you know, I look around at the moment, and the 1975 are very influenced by 80s music, so I understand, and you can hear it all through lots of their songs. Matty Healy's style very much reminds me of, to look at him on stage, Morrissey, and also his lyrical style as well. He's very good with images, painting pictures with his lyrics, Matty Healy, and that reminds me as well of how Morrissey would do the same. He had a very poetic style, I think. So yeah, in that way, I think, you know, in the modern era, there's definitely some threads back to the Smiths. But then you kind of think, you know, I think, you know, try and sort of join the dots a little bit back from the 80s, the Smiths, you know, that the Cure, the Jam, that kind of era. And then you try and trace that through to the current day. And then sort of for me, you kind of look at from the Smiths, and you go into kind of the Stone Roses coming out of Manchester as well in the late 80s, I think early 90s, wasn't it? And then you go into sort of Britpop, and Oasis, of course, is the big one there from especially the Manchester scene. And then you kind of had a bit of a lull, a vacuum in guitar music for a while. I think most people in general would agree that was, you sort of hear that said a lot about the late 90s. But then you get the, in America with, what's it now, the Strokes came about, and that really was ignition for guitar bands back in the UK over here, in terms of, you had sort of, I think, the Libertines, and then Arctic Monkeys, that was a real kind of ignition again for when, I think guitar bands definitely became cool again. So that, you know, but that can all be traced back to, I think, you know, the genesis of it all from really, from the Smiths really in the 80s. So to answer my initial question, are the Smiths still relevant? I think they are, you know, certainly for me, and I think in current day as well, for the reasons I've stated. So do you agree? You know, do you still listen to the Smiths? Are you a fan of the Smiths? Do you think they're still relevant in any way? And if not, tell me why. I'd love to know in the comments. Cheers, Ryan.